let's have some story time. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Rebecca. Today I am just going to put some makeup on and chat with you because I feel like we just need to kind of slow down, you know? I am feeling very overwhelmed, lots of stuff going on personally. You know, it's hard being an adult child of a elderly person. And I know a lot of you relate. You guys, you're my therapist, and I've told you this before. Sometimes when I just need to talk it out, I get on here and I put makeup on and I feel so much better. And it's one of those weeks. And I had so much tension in me that like my back seized up on me last week, and and that's not, you know, the worst of things. There's worse out there, but it was just really tricky and inconvenient because I sit on a stool to do my makeup, and so I don't do that. And then I'm just like laying in my bed with my pillows and my back brace. Not really, just, you know. Anyway, but what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna chat, and I'm like, what do I talk about? I don't know. But I am going to be putting on makeup. I'm not going to be talking about the makeup. I will list everything in the description box. If you are like, I like that, and then you want to see what it is. It bugs me when I'm watching people and they don't have anything in the description box. And I'm like, how do you exist? This isn't about shopping. This isn't about pushing product on you, because I feel like we're all kind of using our dollars for good. And if some of us are doing economic boycott type, mindful spending or lack of spending, and if you're in kind of a no-buy phase, then I want this to feel supportive and encouraging to that. And therefore, if you want to just kind of veg and watch, you know, makeup content and watch makeup application, then this is what I'm focused on. And then if you want to shop anything later, great. I'm like cut off at the head, but then also, do you really want to see my head? And it's clipped. My bangs, I didn't dry my bangs in time. Do you hate that? When you sort of let your hair air dry too long and your bangs are like, ha ha, we're staying this way. That's what I feel. Just like, where to begin? I'm still just sitting here staring at my makeup. I haven't started. Okay. I listen to both true crime podcasts and historical podcasts, like whether it's, you know, women in history, history of makeup, history of film. And I was just kind of laughing because I love, you know, I have such, okay, so we'll talk in terms of, we'll go into the old Hollywood film / makeup stuff. I think it's so funny when I come across an account and it's like I don't know, like Hollywood, you know, vintage icons or old Hollywood, and it'll be a picture of like Rita Hayworth. You know, the picture where it's like a pinup and she's like this and she's just beautiful in black and white, and she's like in lingerie, but it's still so modest compared to what we're used to. But back in the day, it was so racy. I have a family legend about Rita Hayworth that I'm connected to, which I mean, I can't really vet beyond what I've been told by the people that have, some of them have since passed away. But the saying goes that Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles were married, and they had a daughter named Rebecca. And she was, they lived, I don't know if this is when they lived in New York or if they lived in Chicago for a time. But my godmother, who was an immigrant from Germany, she was friends with their nanny. And when Rebecca Wells was baptized. She was baptized in a particular just white, you know, baptismal gown. And it was very plain and very simple. And I guess that it was gifted to the nanny, and that or she stole it. And then I don't think she had children of her own. So she gave it to her friend, which happened to be my godmother. And so my godmother gifted it to our family. So like my sister, me, we've all worn this gown for our baptism. And and my children have worn this gown. So the story is, it was a gown that belonged to the child of Rita Hayworth and Orson Welles. And I love that story. I just don't know if I can believe that. That's my problem. But the point that I was getting to is that when people, there'll be a random comment on a social media post of some old Hollywood icon, and then it'll say something like, a natural beauty. Gosh, I miss those days when women were just women wearing their natural beauty. And I love it when I see comments that are like, you must not know a lot about Hollywood history. So for those that don't know, Rita Hayworth was Mexican. Mexican or Spanish, actually, and I apologize. That I need to know that. Her name was Margarita or Marguerite. She changed it to Rita because of being, you know, you need to be white, right, to make it in Hollywood. And then she had electrolysis. She had a very low hairline. And her agents and the studios were like, no, we can't do this. You need to change what's going on here. And so they gave her electrolysis. I believe she had a nose job or some other kind of facial surgery. And of course, they dyed her hair because her hair was black. Like it was deep, dark brown. And she was then, of course, they were like, this ain't gonna work. And so I think that they could only get her hair as kind of like an auburn red color. I don't know if that was by accident or on purpose that she ended up being more of a redhead. So that's the story of Rita. And there's other horrible, she grew up a dancer and her father was molesting her and it was really, really awful. And she just, yeah. So, and then other folks, you know, like even, okay, let's take Esther Williams. Esther Williams, we don't think of as much because I think there's sort of a funny thing about Esther Williams is that we just think of her as this like, you know, if you're in my generation, she was already a little bit older and her films weren't really like the popular films of that day of, I've got something weird going on here and I can't figure out what it is. She was this incredible swimmer and actress, and I don't know if what other things she did, but she did all these films where like Ziegfeld Follies and the Folly Girls and the things that they had to do for on camera. One time a stunt went wrong and she dove off a platform and she broke her back. And so she had horrible pain and suffering based on what the studios made her do. Same with Marilyn Monroe. I mean, I think it's funny that everybody thinks Marilyn Monroe was this like, oh, she's curvy and she's natural and, you know, you gotta just embrace, look at these real women. I remember there was a lot of stuff, they'll post a photo of Marilyn and her curves kind of like next to somebody like, you know, a modern model, you know, somebody that has been asked probably by their agency or the designer to lose a few pounds or whatever it is. And it's like, oh, you know, we need real women with meat on their bones. I'm like, do you realize how tiny Marilyn was? She was tiny. And to think that she wasn't pressured in her circles to look the way she did. And she also underwent surgeries and different changes in her appearance, whether it was, I think she got breast augmentation, I think she got facial surgery, I think she got hairline, you know, she got stuff done. And I just think it's funny that people think that Hollywood was somehow this pure, untouched by, you know, kind of this artifice of appearance that we feel like we are flooded with today. And it was like that from day one. And if anything, we need to learn from it, because if you think about the Me Too and you're like, oh, these ladies just complaining. I mean, if that is your feeling, then bye. I don't think we can be friends. But, you know, if it felt like, oh, why is everybody just making such a big deal about Me Too? Or hasn't this the casting couch and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, exactly. I mean, poor Judy Garland was abused by, was it one of the mayor, Louis B. Mayer? I mean, she was abused as a child in the industry. And I think Shirley Temple talks about avoiding some of the pitfalls of that. And she kind of, I don't know if Shirley was like spared of it or what, but you know, it's frightening what was expected, and it's frightening to think what we all just kind of said, okay. And Judy Garland got married, I want to say she was like 19 or 20, and this was before she married Vincent Minnelli. But Judy married someone, and the studios did not like the fact that she was still under contract and feeling and married, and because she was still supposed to be their wholesome, you know, because she was such the Dorothy / I can't remember exactly the timeline, but this is before, like I said, before Meet Me in St. Louis. So after Wizard of Oz, but before Meet Me in St. Louis, she got married and she was pregnant, and the studio made her have an abortion because they were like, you are not having a child. And she had to hide her marriage. She could not tell the public she was married. So Hollywood has been absolutely cruel to women for a long, long time. And that's just, you know, the surface. That's just, we're barely touching the surface. So I have always been so fascinated with how makeup has been kind of a form of rebellion. And I think that right now we're very much in that era again. And I want to remind people that flappers, because I think it's really funny. I always think it's really funny when anyone conservative dresses as like someone from the 20s, like a flapper, or kind of goes into that like, oh, we're at a Great Gatsby themed party. When the 20s were all about prohibition, right? So this means if you think about the 20s and you think about the way the women looked and how their hemlines were dropping because, or I should say, their waistlines were dropping. So if you think about the 20s, it was about prohibition, and it was about women, the suffragette movement, and women securing the right to vote. So what does that mean? That means that women were rejecting the kind of patriarchal corsets and, you know, being rigid and wearing their hair up and having to look plain, like you had to be beautiful, but you had to be naturally beautiful and plain, right? So they started wearing mascara and lipstick. And so if you see a flapper and it's got that Clairbout, you know, that like dark lip, that's because that was dark, dark lipstick. And it was to basically protest the patriarchy and anything that said you shouldn't wear any lipstick. And they were wearing rouge. The only people that wore lipstick were sex workers, you know. I always think of like saloon girls, you know, in the like Little House on the Prairie, and they're wearing all their rouge. Okay, so like sex workers and actresses. And that was basically, they were lumped together. Like that was it. You're either, if you're wearing makeup, you're one of those two things. So when mainstream, or what they were, you know, they were trying to be mainstream, or kind of the average woman, just started adopting this look of cutting their hair and not wearing it up in a bun or a Gibson girl, you know, cutting their hair, doing, you know, doing the penciled in shadow or features and eyebrows and all that stuff. And it's just so incredible. And then of course, speakeasies were around because the government outlawed alcohol. But you guys, the government didn't outlaw alcohol for the sake and well-being of its general public, because they didn't know like alcohol is bad for you, it's a carcinogen, blah blah blah. No, they had to control it and use it for their advantage. They destroyed apple crops just because they didn't want people to make their own cider. I mean, come on. So if the thing about the temperance movement is people think, well, it's because people were against drinking because they were so religious, and then drinking, you know, if you're drinking and you're the debauchery of drinking, and it's so awful. Well, the funny thing is, no, all it did was shut the alcohol industry down for the regular folks and make it just affordable or available for mobsters and government. I don't know. Sure. My point being, the 20s were very revolutionary. You get my drift? Okay. So during World War II, we know, we've learned, we've seen it in film, resources were low. You know, whether you were in Europe, there was nothing. And then even in America, you know, people were doing victory gardens, people were planting their own food, there was like, you couldn't wear nylons because there was no nylon production, so women weren't wearing stockings. You know, there was this whole idea of we need to support our men in the fighting the fight, so therefore we are going to do everything we can. And then of course you've got Rosie the Riveter, because women had to go into the factories because the men were off fighting the war, so they had to be out here doing all that work. And you know, women started wearing red lipstick, and the rumor was Hitler hated red lipstick. So then companies started using victory red. So red lipstick was the symbol once the Allies won the war and Hitler and Nazis were stopped. Red lipstick was a signal for victory. So any kind of red lipstick is basically anti-fascist. And that's that story in a nutshell. What else? All right, let's get out of the whole history lesson, and I can just talk about me real quick. Yeah, so everything's great. I'm fine. My mom's fine. My sister's fine. We're all fine. Everybody's fine. My family's fine. We're all fine. It's just, everything just feels really, I think it's seasonal affective disorder. I think it's hard. Sometimes we had like a whole week, very dark, dreary weather. And I think the pressure system, like the barometer, like I can feel barometric pressure in my brain. That sounds really weird to say, but it's true. And yeah, so, all right. I want to, you know, even though I'm not doing this as a makeup video and it's just a chit chat, I'm still having a hard time putting my mascara on. So hang on a second. A year ago at this time, I was in England and Germany with my brother, and we were visiting family, and I got to see where my dad grew up, and it was just such a wonderful time seeing aunts and uncles and cousins and some friends that we hadn't seen in decades, or even, I mean, in some cases, I think there were one or two I hadn't met yet. So that was amazing, and I really missed that trip. That was so much fun. My brother and I had so much fun, and no offense to any family members, but the best day, I think he and I will agree, is the day we stopped in Oxford and had tea and shopped. Well, we didn't, it was, I think a lot of the bookstores were closed, but we like window shopped and we souvenir shopped, and that was so much fun. And we just had such an incredible time looking at some of the architecture at Oxford from the outside, because we couldn't go in. Because you need tours, you have to set up tours to Oxford ahead of time. Okay, I just smudged my mascara. It was still a little wet. Speaking of red lipstick, I am going to wear the Lip Bar in Boy Trouble. I know, I said I wasn't going to talk about my makeup, but I can talk about the lipstick I'm going to wear, right? Okay. Making sure, I'm going to clean that up with a Q-tip in just a second. Making sure my lips don't have any grease. Yeah, so also, I remember how my brother and we went to Harrods. I was so overwhelmed. I didn't buy anything. I should have gone to just like the chocolate floor and bought some chocolate. I didn't. Or tea. I didn't. I was perusing makeup and fragrance, and I honestly got so overwhelmed. Look at this color. Oh. I think the stripes on my shirt are a little bit more neutral and this is more red, but I don't care. I mean, nothing earth-shattering, right? What are we gonna do about my hair? Hang on, I think I need, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. And there we go. I've tamed my bangs, you guys. How about that? All right. So how we doing? Yup. Well, now I'm ready. I think I'm just gonna go walk the dog. It's a gorgeous day. So last week was flooding, rain, and high winds. And right now it's 60 degrees and sunny. It's gorgeous. So I need to walk the dog. But anyway, I shall leave you with good tidings. And yeah, and just, you know, say hi in the comments. If you need a little virtual hug, I'm here for you. And like I said, you don't shop anything in this post until you feel like it. Please, I will list any links. I will list any discount codes just because if I have them, but yeah. I do not want you to shop this post. Thank you so much for watching. And I would love it if you wanted to, you can subscribe to my channel. That's free. Unless you don't want to support YouTube. Then thanks for watching. I don't know. Anyway, okay, cool. I'll see you next time. Bye.